two mean and ugly stepsisters could not stop beautiful Cinderella from marrying the handsome prince from the faraway kingdom. My dear friends, don't we wish that everything in life, like a fairy tale, had a happy ending? I'm sure each one of you had a favorite fairy tale when growing up. The men in this room can deny that as much as they want. When I was growing up, I dreamt that I was pretty and dainty with smooth, flawless skin like Cinderella. My prince was tall, dark, handsome. Isn't that what Derek said? As my imagination ran wild, I pictured him riding on a white horse, sweeping me off my feet and handing me a single red rose. Fiction is powerful stuff. It transports you into an imaginary, exhilarating world. But what if your brain shuts out reality? Some years ago, I met Karim. Karim was tall and handsome. He could be darker. He did not even own a cat. So a white horse was out, of course. As for the romantic trait in Karim, in my perspective, this weighed less than a gram. He certainly was not the type to walk through the bushes and prick his finger just to pick me a rose. Even as I berated him for not mirroring my Prince Charming, something sparked and we started to date. One evening, we were seated in the car parked outside his house, deep in discussion, when suddenly we heard a tap on the window. Startled, we looked up, and to our horror, we saw a man with a gun. The rest happened at the speed of light. Karim put the gear into reverse and slammed on the accelerator, but just as he fired a shot, the bullet smashed through the window, shattered the glass, and ripped through Karim's shoulder. At that moment, as I saw blood oozing through the wound, it hit me like thunderbolt that I loved him and I could not bear to lose him. Ladies and gentlemen, it took a horrific incident for me to change my perspective of Karim. By refocusing my lens, I was able to see him for the person he was and not the fairy tale image that I had etched in my head. After all, what he possibly lacked in romance, he more than made up in dependability and strength of character. What more would I want in a partner? Fast forward to today, Karim and I have been married for 20 years. Even without the white horse, we are happy. But would someone please tell him that I'm still waiting for my red rose? Could you be missing out on beautiful opportunities because of your perspective? Perhaps it is time to refocus your lens. I hope it will not require a traumatic or a horrific incident like mine for you to do so. Now, it doesn't take a genius to see beyond those fairy tales. But there is a tricky fellow. That tricky fellow is called the half-truth. The half-truth is not a truth. They are generalizations, they are misinformation, disinformation that appear like gospel. Why? Because the majority thinks so. It is very important to see life through a lens that gives you a true perspective. Today I wish to share with you how changes in perspective in 3 different stages of my life have shaped the person I am. I hope they will help you review your own life, because sometimes it only takes a small shift in perspective to transform your life. The first has to do with my birth. A drive from here to the slopes of Mount Kenya will take you past the village I was born. But alas, it is not a village anymore. You know it as the bustling county called Muranga. My parents wanted and planned for 3 children. I was the 4th. Man proposes, God disposes. I was clearly the unplanned one. It is said that unwanted children grow up deprived of love. My neighbor Simon Kinyua was one such unwanted child. He was born 2 years before me and was overtly unloved by his parents. Simon took to drugs and alcohol at the age of 9, and he tragically took his own life when he was only 19. Our entire village was devastated, and up until today, on July 26th, I light a candle in my house in memory of Simon. While my birth too was unplanned, my parents have never made me feel unwanted. On the contrary, they saw my unscheduled entry as a surprise gift. When was the last time you received a surprise gift? Wasn't that a wonderful feeling? Perhaps that is why we wait for Christmas, because we are waiting for those surprise gifts. And because of that, I have been fortunate to have been showered with love throughout my life, and this has helped me form healthy relationships with my village mates, with my siblings, with my spouse, with my son, with many here in this room, you, my friends. 2 different lives, 2 different paths, all because of different perspectives. But I ask you, is an unwanted child a blessing or a burden? It is all about perspective. The second stage has to do with my career. While women have made great strides, and we heard Alex, the gender gap remains wide in the workplace. Gender-based stereotypes continue to be an obstacle to women, especially in their path or in their journey towards the topmost rungs of the corporate ladder. Hidden barriers, popularly known as the glass ceiling, come in the way. It is perhaps a given that women are unable to progress because of this. But you may be thinking, I'm about to claim that this is fiction. It is not. Published research has shown that globally, only 9% of the CEOs and managing directors are women. The statistics in Kenya are even less. Fact is that the odds for a woman to rise to the number 1 position are pretty slim, even if she is pretty and slim. Conversely, you might hear of a woman suddenly and surprisingly promoted to the position of head honcho of a firm. But be very careful when that happens, because she is being prepared to fail and take the rap, a phenomenon they call the glass cliff. For 20 years, blood, sweat, and tears helped me in my career at Dormans Group of companies. I progressed from the ranks, from the position of personal assistant to the managing director to a human resource assistant, then to a human resource manager. I went on to the position of human resource director and chief financial officer. I knew then that I had reached my peak and I could not aim any higher. There were two reasons for this. One, I am a woman, and two, I am short. So when the position of managing director of Dormans Coffee became vacant, I did not even think to apply. Ironically, it was my boss and mentor over the years who proposed, who challenged me to take the post. It struck me then that it is in our DNA to simply accept the perspective of the majority. I had become so blind to the glass ceiling phenomena that I was not seeing the opportunities that were mine to grab. I had so subscribed to it. Today, 4 years on, as managing director of Dormans Coffee, I look back with pride and gratitude at the goals attained which previously I thought were unattainable. And I look forward to climbing greater heights. What perspectives might be limiting you? But fact is that the statistics for women in leadership remain ugly. But we are in a changing world where the past or the present or combined must not equal to the future. Recent studies have shown that there's a positive correlationship between a firm's increase in profitability and women on the board. Yet despite this, uncelebrated heroes like my boss are far and few. We must all do our part to also shift perspectives and change the narrative. We have a responsibility to write a new and more equitable statistic. Do remember that sometimes a shift in perspective can make the impossible possible. The third stage that I'm going to talk about touches on the meaning of life and my perspective on my purpose in life. All my childhood fairy tales ended with, and they lived happily ever after. Can we really live happily ever after in this world? According to Viktor Frankl, a renowned neurologist, psychologist, and author, you cannot pursue happiness. It must ensue. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and in his best-selling book, Man's Search for Meaning, chronicles how during his time as an inmate in a concentration camp, the circumstances were horrific, they were traumatic, they were tragic, and he describes how he searched really hard for a positive purpose to live. Well, I submit that while his circumstances may have been extreme, harsh, your and my search is no different. As human beings, we are constantly striving to have meaning and significance in our lives. We want to feel we are important. We want to feel we are useful. We want to feel we are making an impact and contributing to something bigger. But how do we find meaning in our lives? How do we find that purpose? Many have searched high and low. People have moved jobs. They have moved cities, left partners, despaired, gone through illnesses, succumbed to death even, as they start feeling that they are living meaningless and unpurposeful lives. A few years ago, perhaps around the time when I was not able to aim any higher, I too went through a phase where I was feeling extremely unfulfilled. I had been working task after task in what I felt was just a job, just to get the money out of it. I just was feeling completely unfulfilled. I was over 40 and had spent about half my life at this job. Now I bet as you're listening to me, you're beginning to calculate my age. I must caution you, a woman's age is very personal. Suffice it to say that I'm over 40, and my wise counsel today, if assuming wisdom comes with age, is that seemingly elusive purpose is actually very close to you. In this rainy weather, it is like that mosquito when you're sleeping comes buzzing near your ears. Zzz. You go to swat it, you miss. You go back to sleep. Zzz. You miss again. You go back to sleep. What happens? So finally you get up, switch on the light, but the further you look, the harder it is to reach. You can only nab it when it is close to you. Similarly, your purpose is more likely to be found close to where you are and doing what you know best. At Dormans, our job is to delight your taste buds with that heavenly brew we call Dormans coffee. Today, it is with the help of my customers and my wonderful team that I have been able to find meaning in my work because I realize the impact we are making. And this newfound meaning has injected energy in me. It's given me fulfillment and satisfaction. And I submit that if we all tried to find meaning in our workplaces, after all, every organization, every enterprise, every business was formed to fulfill a need. And if you can find the impact that you can make, together we can all serve society so much better. This said, it would be a mistake to believe that there is only a single formula to living a purposeful life. Life has no promise. There is no permanency. Change is inevitable. And if work and only work becomes your sole purpose, then retirement is sure to be the beginning of a slow death. Life has so many compartments, so the idea is to find meaning in all you do. Try and create an impact in everything you do, just like the hero of your story. If your life were to be played back to you as a movie, would you come out as the hero of your story? Ladies and gentlemen, through my experiences, you will have seen that I have been fortunate to have been the beneficiary of the right perspective through individuals in my life who have fueled the wind beneath my wings. And indeed, sometimes a change in perspective will be propelled by individuals, by an incident, by change in circumstances, but it would be foolhardy to assume this will always happen. You must be deliberate. The next time you are confronted with a challenge or even an opportunity, faced with an opportunity or need to make a decision, step back. Disconnect from all that technology around you. Reconnect with yourself. Question your assumptions, your beliefs, and your biases. Learn to challenge those unhelpful, limiting, and even damaging perceptions. Fortunately, just like this cube has many sides to it, most situations in life have many perspectives. Let's consider Cinderella. Did Cinderella only marry the prince because she had a pretty face? Were the two horrible sisters only horrible because they were ugly? Could the two horrible sisters live happily ever after? Could Prince Charming perhaps have been a bad guy? Reflect upon the possibilities, and self-reflection is extremely humbling. But I challenge you today, recognize that perspective that works for you and let it help you write a new narrative that will chart a new shape to your life.